Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's quiet the brain's chatter to reflect on what matters. Mental health is everything in a world full of actors. That's why you gotta stay woke. If you form toxic bonds, they gotta be broke. Whether it's enemies, friends, or family folk. Wellness is the wealth. Love yourself and show it care. And make sure anybody else do the same and keep it there. Keep the toxic on the low. Use your throat chakra mode. Surround you with the benzopo to keep your head up facing north. While departing from the need to be understood, right and liked, and embracing the sensation of just experiencing life. Loving and respecting, honoring, not neglecting the parts of ourselves that process what we stressing. The generational trauma, the being struck by the drama, the being the person of color in a hot pursuit in the summer. It's enough to drive you crazy, had you bouncing off the walls. Shout out to SG Mental Health Counseling for answering the call. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's quiet the brain's chatter to reflect on what matters. Mental health is everything in a world full of actors. That's why you gotta stay woke. If you form toxic bonds, they gotta be broke. Whether it's enemies, friends, or family folk. Wellness is the wealth. Love yourself and show it care. And make sure anybody else do the same and keep it there. Keep the toxic on the low. Use your throat chakra mode. Surround you with the benzopo to keep your head up facing north. While departing from the need to be understood, right and liked, and embracing the sensation of just experiencing life. Loving and respecting, honoring, not neglecting the parts of ourselves that process what we stressing. The generational trauma, the being struck by the drama, the being the person of color in a hot pursuit in the summer. It's enough to drive you crazy, had you bouncing off the walls. Shout out to SG Mental Health Counseling for answering the call. Now let's talk about it.
Yo, what's good, people? It's your boy, Christian Brown.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
My apologies for the technical difficulties. But what's good, people, man? We coming to you live once again from SG Mental Health and Counseling. This your boy, Christian Brown, coming from the best HBCU in the world. Shout out to the Rattlers.
This is your man, Dan Richardson, coming from your Heights of Seven Hills, Florida A&M University, and by way of Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. And to let you know, I'm a registered clinical social worker intern for the state of Florida. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So today, man, we got a special guest, and the topic today is how mental health affects your man and communities.
Yes, let's talk about it. So our special guest today is our very own, one of our Tallahassee raised and born Deputy Chief Maurice Holmes. Deputy Chief Maurice Holmes is the commander of the Tallahassee Police Department Operation Branch, which consists of patrol and operational support functions. Maurice was born in Tallahassee, Florida, and has 6 siblings. He is the oldest of Harriet and the late Johnny Holmes Sr. He is married to Sylvia J. Holmes, whom he met when he moved to Thomasville, Georgia, from Atlanta, Georgia, in 2005. Holmes grew up on the south side of Tallahassee in the Bond community, where he attended Bond Elementary, NIM School, and he attended Fairview, and also a graduate from Rickards High School in '85. Maurice played both high school and college football, and he is a veteran of the United States Army, where he served for 3 years active and 5 years reserve duty. After a lengthy college journey, which included a 3-year stint at Alabama A&M University in the early 90s, he graduated from Thomas University in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. In 2019, Maurice obtained his master's degree in public safety administration from Columbia State University Command College. Holmes started his law enforcement career in 1994 at Morehouse College Police Department in Atlanta, Georgia. He is a 28-year veteran and holds numerous law enforcement certification in both Georgia and Florida. Holmes enjoys sharing his knowledge and experience with others to better themselves and to become one with the community in which they serve. Deputy Chief Holmes is also an ordained minister, and he spent his adult life being a servant to families, friends, his communities, and most important, his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. That's what's up, man. How you doing, Mr. Holmes? Talk to the people. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, I mean, I think Dan just covered it all, but I'm one of those individuals. Though I've been in law enforcement 28 years, I've only been back here in law enforcement capacity for 2.5, going on 3 now as deputy chief. So it's like I've come full circle. And it's a dream come true when anytime you can, bring the pinnacle of your career, to your hometown and be in a place and position where you can affect change and make a difference, a positive difference in your community. So I'm very strong in my beliefs of the police are the community and the community is police. Law enforcement, TPD, we are our community. And we're not the Tallahassee Police Department, and then we serve the city of Tallahassee. We are the city of Tallahassee. So that's kind of what I bring. Just here to talk about it as you guys say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, man, we finna go ahead and dive into this. I have a few questions for you from some of the members out there in the community. And one of them are, from your professional lens, how does mental health affect men?
How does mental health affect men? Men, you look at the man as a whole, we're generally the provider's backbone. So anytime you have someone that's suffering from any illness, no less than mental illness, and it affects that individual as being a provider. Affect the provider. It affects them from nurturing their children, both their male and female children. So, anytime you have a mental health challenge, as a man and provider, it provides issues, as far as the core of the family. So that, and then other issues that could lead to things such as domestic violence and other incidents where, your mental illness can affect, the capacity of you being a man.
That's good. Good. All right. Here's another question for you. How do we change our community for the better?
Well, that, to change anything is always difficult, because when you're talking about changing for the better, a lot of time that involves or entails you changing a culture. And anytime you change a culture, it's gonna take time. I was saying, you don't turn a ship on a dime, and to change a community, especially if it's considered a bad community or impoverished community, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of resources, and it's going to have to take the changing of a mind that wants to change. Because if a mind don't want to change, if a community don't want to change, it's not going to change. It takes leadership also. You got to have good leadership to affect change anywhere. You got to have good leadership that has a positive and innovative mindset to first of all, know what the values are of the community, or what your values are, know what the goals that are being set, and set benchmarks to what you need to do or accomplish to make change. It's just like changing the culture in law enforcement. It's something that it's changing, but it's going to take time. Generally, to change the culture of any law enforcement, when you have new leadership come in, it takes about 5 years.
Okay.
So that's just a law enforcement culture. But when you talk about changing a community, a culture of a community, that could take even longer, because you have to change the mindset of those that live in that area.
Okay. So with that being said and everything, the social norm is pretty much when it comes down to mental health in the minority community, it's not something that we really talk about. So what is your take on this statement? When men are mentally healthy, it increases healthier communities.
Well, not just men, but when anybody are mentally healthy, it increases. But when men are mentally healthy, that means they can be a better provider. They can be a better nurturer. They can be a better leader. They can be a better mentor. They'll be able to go out and lead people, because, we have a problem with a lot of youth right now because there's no father figure involved. And, when there's no father, that's a big piece missing from the nurturing process. So when men are mentally healthy, they can be nurtured, especially when it comes to other young men. You're able to impart, wisdom and knowledge into the youth and get them to grow, and then want to be a productive individual and be a provider for themselves and for their family. When men are mentally healthy, also your education level is higher. You're not going to be highly educated and then won't have less than. You're going to always strive for more. And when you strive for more, you're going to increase your own value, but also increase the what your family can go out and do, what your family can go out and accomplish, what you can provide for them. So when men are mentally healthy, it just makes for a better and even safer community, because when you have your faculties, all your faculties together, you're not going to go out there and want to commit crime. You're not going to more likely go into crisis situations to where you have to be de-escalated. So you'll have less violation, less violence, more likely bad encounters with law enforcement. So it's a plethora of things that when men are mentally healthy, it just makes a whole community better, because you have a community of strong leaders and providers that can go out and do what needs to be done for their families.
Okay, that's good. Good. All right. You grew up in what was considered a bad neighborhood, growing up here in Tallahassee. Are there any changes in those neighborhoods now? And if so, what are they? And if not, why?
Well, if I put my spiritual hat on for a minute, if I may.
Okay.
I like to say it's the same demon, but it just has a different tactic. When you're talking about bad, per se, bad. It's good people everywhere you go. I don't care where you go. Even some people that are considered maybe socially bad, they're really good people. You just have to get to know them and understand their mindset. So I did come from a rough area, and that area is still rough. My mom still lives over there. My brothers, they still live over there. I still frequent that area because I want to make sure that I'm in touch with that, because I consider that really grassroots of what we do here at law enforcement, because a lot of times that's the tip of the spear who my officers have to go out and deal with. So I want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to communicate with all in the community. So why is it still bad? Well, why is it still bad? You still have drug problems. When I say different, same demon, different tactic, back when it really got bad, when I was young, crack cocaine came along. And we know what that did to the African American community.
Right.
Now you have anything and everything with these synthetic drugs that are out there. And I don't know which one is worse, because you have these synthetic drugs out there that's causing people to go into excited delirium to the point of where, in essence, you know, they're having a heart attack when they're out there going into sighted living because their heart rate, if you put it next in an EKG next to each other, it's the same if the person having a heart attack. So you still have that in the community. And as long as you have drugs or drug nexus anywhere, especially where you're selling and using, you're going to have problems. You're going to have poverty, you're going to have high crime, and you're going to have other things. So that's the issue that was going on back then, and that is still the issue that's going on right now. So, you know, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay. So before we all know about George Floyd and the incident that happened with him. After that incident, they wanted to pass a law/policy which kind of defunded the police, and the money would be used to, you know, source community resources down that line. So with that being said, what is your take toward police departments? Do you think they could they impact positive, negative, or can you think that they impact our communities?
Of course, a 28-year veteran, I know law enforcement impacts our community. Our law enforcement impacts everyone's community. You know, law enforcement has impacted communities for 400 years. I like to say that, hey, if government's an ink pen, law enforcement, we're the ink, because we leave a mark, and that mark is permanent. You just don't go and erase it, so it's there. So when you're talking about some of the things that come out of George Floyd reform bill and other things that's going on, you know, here at Tallahassee Police Department, we've been doing that anyway. We've been doing that since I've been here. Being an accredited agency, we've been already doing what we call 21st century policing, which is policing philosophy that's from President Obama days. He created the 21st century policing philosophy, and we practice the 4 pillars of that, meaning, you know, we're fair, we give our community a voice, we're transparent, we have nothing to hide, our policies are facing outward. You can go online right now and read our policies and go just as much as we do. And, you know, we're impartial. And we also recognize that before you can be outwardly fair and give voice and transparent and being impartial, you have to do it inwardly. You have to take care of your personnel. The officers, the sworn officers, your civilian personnel, really they're one. And you have to treat them in a 21st century mentality. You have to do those same 4 pillars from the inside before it can go out. And we're finding out that we treating it, we activate these principles start to show in our community. And when it starts to show in our community, it starts to build communication, it starts to build trust. And then it started to what I call humanize this badge. And that way they see right now, they're starting to learn, okay, these are human beings. These are people out here in this uniform. They have the same fears and the same, you know, biases, implicit biases as we do. We're human. You're talking about defunding the police. We call it reallocating the resources. You know, we've taken a lot of positions with our agency, and it's pretty much going across the country, and we civilianize those. We a lot of things that police were doing. It's not a police matter. It's not something you need a sworn officer with a gun and a badge to handle. Civilians can handle it. We have what we call our community service technicians. You know, they go out, they're civilian personnel. They go out and work traffic accidents. You see them in the little electric cars. They go out and they do post-crime burglaries and take other reports of other criminal activities that's not active. You know, may have occurred earlier, so they can go and take the report. We're also getting additional 6. So we're reallocating the resources and changing our approach to where we don't use sworn personnel. We use civilians. So what it does is twofold. We put more people out in the streets or out in the public or communicating with the public that are civilian. And at the same time, we can take those positions that used to be sworn, put them on the street, so we have more boots on the ground to address our crime and criminal activity that we have going on in the city as well. Plus, also our community outreach. We do an enormous amount of community outreach. So it's a number of things that we're doing. We've been doing, when they came up with the Obama 8 Can't Wait, we were already doing the 8 That Can't Wait. They talked about 21st Century Policing. Tallahassee Police Department's been doing that for years because we are accredited agency. We follow the best practices of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, which is a worldwide agency that focuses on best practices and basically community-oriented policing, mentality and tactics. Not every agency is accredited. So that's why you see we have a lot of issues still going on, because you have a lot of agencies that hasn't caught up. They still maybe 20 years behind on some of the practices they're using. So even if they're in bootleg Minnesota somewhere, it's just like we're doing it here in Tallahassee, Florida, because you're talking about the badge and the uniform, and this badge and uniform represents an institution. So we're part of the institution. So when it happened in bootleg Minnesota, it's just like it happened here in Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay. All right. So what is the Tallahassee Police Department doing to restore trust in our community to decrease the effects of mental health?
Well, I talked about some of it, but we're doing a number of things. One thing I want to highlight is our team unit we have, which we're getting ready to expand. Right now it's 1 unit. We're getting ready to expand it to 3 units, and then eventually, I guess down the road, we're going to make it 4. And what that is it's Tallahassee Emergency Assessment Mobile Unit. And what it is an officer. He's dressed down. He don't have on the traditional uniform. Generally have on like a polo shirt, khakis. You have a civilian personnel that's from Appalachia generally, and it's a clinician, someone that can, basically go and evaluate someone that's having a mental health crisis. And then you also have an EMT also involved, just in case you have a medical episode. So that's one of the things we're doing, and all they do is respond to people that are in crisis or having mental health issues. And we have an outstanding officer that we put in there, and he's taking this thing to a level where it's receiving national attention, not just on the mental aspect of it, the mental approach of it, but also the technological approach of it, because he's gotten ways to streamline to where if it's a dangerous situation, the clinician don't even have to get out of the vehicle. They can watch it in the vehicle and see what the mannerisms are and see what's going on, and wait till, if the officer needs to de-escalate someone, wait till that's done before they come out. It's just tremendous. And he's done so much outreach, not just with the mental health, but our homeless population and some of everyone. He's put this team unit on a national map that's receiving national attention. So we also partner with Appalachia, as I said. We partner also with the Sheriff's Department has their mental health units going as well. So that's another thing that law enforcement is doing in the community. TPD, what we're doing, man, we're doing a outreach such as this to communicate with our community, with the public, let them know what we're doing. Not keeping stuff under the vest, if you will. We also educate our community consistently on what we're doing. We have programs such as our Citizen Police Academy, which I invite both of you to come to here in the near future, so you can learn what we do. You can see what we do. It's like you get to learn some tactics. You get put in a simulator. You get to see how you would react in certain situations. And you'll be surprised how much your stress level go up, and you're just in a simulator. You're not in a real world situation. It's a simulator, and that's something that we invite the public to. We have our Tallahassee Police Athletic League. We have what we call Defy Camp. It's getting ready to start here next month, and what that is our drug education for our youth program, and actually it's going to be on the campus of FAMU this year. Where we'll have 24 youth. Generally, the coordinator, she don't want more than like 20 of the youth involved, but this year she extended it to 24. So we're going to be educating those youth here over the next few weeks once that starts in July. Mental health education and awareness such as this we do consistently. We have a community relations unit Also, our internal, external branch of the police department that's consistent. That's all they do is go out and engage our community, communicate with our community, educate our community, go out and do crime prevention tips and give them tips on how to make themselves a hard target. Going out and doing just communicate. We have a citizens advisory council that's all civilian, and they advise. They're basically created to be advocates for the police department and also be like a liaison, if you will, for police department and our community from a civilian standpoint, where they give feedback to the community and basically let them know why we do what we're doing and what we're doing, and the community give them feedback to give to us. So it's kind of twofold what we do with that. We also have a youth citizen, advisory council as well, where we have younger teenagers, and that's kind of in the infant stages. We're still building it. If you weren't with youth before, it's a little more challenging to get them in line. It's challenging enough for the adults, no less than the youth. And spoke already of how we practice 21st century policing, the policing philosophy. We here at Tallahassee Police Department, we realize that we're in the business of building trust. We also realize that we have to also be in the business of fighting crime, because you can't just do community and then don't realize that you have a crime element going on as well. So we have to walk that line. And the thing is, I always want people to understand, just because you got a criminal or two in a certain area or community, that don't make everybody in that area or community a criminal. So you don't go in and you treat everybody, even if they are criminals, you treat them fair. You still treat them the same way, but you also going to take them to jail or prison or whatever you need to do because they've gone out and violated the law. But just because they violated the law, you don't go and treat, Miss Annie Mae or Miss Harry, my mama, or somebody. You don't treat them wrong because they live in a certain area. So things like that we're doing, to build trust in our community. Trust is like rent. It's due every day. You got to pay it every day. You can't just go out and think you're gonna build trust today and then go out and kick the dog tomorrow. It don't work that way. You got to do it every day, and you got to do it consistently. And believe it or not, even as hard as we work and hard as we try, when we have other agencies that individuals in other agencies that go out and do boneheaded, stupid things, it affects us just like we did it. So that is a challenge, but I realize that is a never-ending job. So we'll just keep driving.
Right. Okay. So you said y'all partner with Appalachia. So does the Tallahassee Police Department use social workers or other mental health specialists whenever responding to calls in the community?
Say that one more time now.
I know you said you partnered with Appalachia. So does the Tallahassee Police Department use social workers or other mental health specialists whenever responding to calls in communities?
Yeah, we use them. That's part of what we do. With Appalachia, we also train our officers in de-escalation also, and also communicating and dealing with individuals in mental health crisis. So we use them when we can. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but the unit that we created, we partner with Appalachia right now, and those are the social workers and other people we use. I guess what you're trying to say, are we using those other resources? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's part of the outreach that I spoke of. What our officer does. We recently had we had a couple of meetings with the sheriff's office where they were getting their what we call host program, which is for the homeless off the ground. A lot of that ties in with mental illness. And what we did is we got incorporated with all the resources that are here in not just Tallahassee, but Leon County. We had everyone at the table. So we got now a a mechanism of tracking, who we deal with, when we deal with, who we need to come in and maybe follow up with. If they say, for instance, they have a situation at a certain location, and we know that person may not take his medication. Well, we have mechanism now to know, hey, we might need to go follow up with that individual, just for outreach, and just have either us or one of those resources that I talked about, which was a number of resources here in Leon County. Have one of those resources reach out to those individuals and just to make sure, it's like a checks and balance thing. Just try to make sure that they're on path to make sure they're taking the medication, maybe seeing the counselor they need to see, things of that nature.
Okay.
Hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I know back in, I think it was 2015, I had a chance doing my intern at FAMU to go out to the sheriff department, and they had like a social work, kind of like I can't say a division, but it was, they had a couple of social workers that was working there at the department. And I know, lately dealing with mental health, with monies being allocated. And I know you mentioned that you all use, outside sources dealing with that. Do you all think about in the future of having possibly a social work division working on site?
That's an interesting question. That's probably something that we have not breached, if you will, as far as having a social worker. You trying to say like a social worker division?
What, social worker mental health?
Yeah, and that's something we haven't breached. We started with the team unit as outreach. Now there's additional resources coming and additional things we're doing, but the social worker part, that is, without getting ahead of ourselves, that's might be where we're going city-wise as far as along with the Appalachians. So I really can't comment on it or verify rather if we're actually going to have that or not. But that's an interesting question. I'll table that and I'll get back with you on it, though. I'll follow up with you.
Because I think it was in 2001, the city kind of started this program that was dealing with social workers. That if I'm not mistaken, Chief Revel was there when they did the inauguration of that particular program. And something that's done, I guess, within the city, and it might be one of you guys partnering with.
Yeah, the city. Okay, the city does have that. Yes, it's part of the resources that I talked about. Yes,
right.
But as far as it being with the police department, no, because they have their own. They're their own entity, if you will. Meaning they are one of the resources that we use as the police department when we have a situation, involving someone that suffers from mental health.
Okay. So here's another question at you. If drugs were removed from our communities, do you think that would decrease the mental health concerns in those communities? Or will we still have issues dealing with mental health?
Well, mental health is right now. Mental health is really a crisis nationwide. I personally, I think drugs is a catalyst to make someone maybe advance into a crisis type situation or act out, if you will, if they suffer from mental health. If you remove drugs from anywhere, of course, I think it'll be better because it eliminates that that piece of the puzzle. But when you talk about mental health, I'm gonna be honest. In my opinion, we're doing a misservice to those that suffer. I go back to 2013 when they closed down all these state hospitals nationwide. We noticed at that time that our use of force involving people in crisis went up astronomically. I mean, it quadrupled over the next 2 years, and it was a spike in violence against law enforcement, also a spike in deadly force situations because people were in crisis, they were not getting medicated, and now we have all these resources created, a lot of LLCs and things of that nature. That, to be honest, they're not going to do the treatment program and plans that were in place back then. And ever since those hospitals closed, everybody want to throw mental health out there. Every time something happens, well, it's mental health. It's mental health. Well, the guns is a problem. No, it's mental health. Well, if the mental health is the problem, then we need to put allocate the resources that need to be put into it to fix the problem. If not, it's going to continue to get worse because you have a number of people out here suffering from different mental health issues, to include drug addictions that they don't even know they're addicted to, and they're not getting properly treated. They're not getting properly diagnosed. They're not getting properly medicated, and they're not getting properly monitored. And you have a lot of individuals out here on their own. They're not gonna follow a medical plan because they're just not. So I honestly think we need to revisit, in some capacity, the creation of bringing back those facilities, because those facilities were proven to take care and properly treat these individuals. It's just like taking hospitals away and say, well, you can go treat yourself, or we'll tell you what you need to take. You just go get it and take it. Well, it ain't gonna work that way. If you take the hospitals away, you're gonna have people out here acting out, dying, and everything else because you're not getting properly treated, you're not getting properly medicated, you're not getting properly diagnosed. So, as a country, if we're so concerned about mental health and want to do something about it, we really need to go back and revisit, to some capacity, bringing back mental health hospitals and facilities to properly diagnose and treat individuals who suffer from these illnesses.
Okay. One of the viewers want to know, how closely do you work with local health centers like the hospitals and with mental health patients?
How do me personally?
Yes.
Well, I'm over patrol operations. That's you're talking about 300 and some employees, and you're talking about the boots on the ground here in the city. I work as close as I can with any and everybody. I have been involved with, the creation of the Sheriff Department's host unit, the creation of our teams unit. So I'm very familiar with the Appalachian employees. I'm very familiar with the way they do things. I'm very familiar with that. But, as far as like day-to-day or going into mental health facilities, other than just maybe to just visit or talk every now and then, I really don't get opportunity to do that because my hands are full with a number of other things. Now, we do have our, like I said, our team unit that goes out, and he works very, very closely with all the mental health entities here in city of Tallahassee and Leon County.
Okay.
All right. We have another question from a viewer. Do you think that there's more recreational drug use or prescription drug mental health situations in the Tallahassee area?
Well, it's just not Tallahassee; it's everywhere. It's more addictions. That's you're saying recreation, but recreation is something you might go out do once, maybe twice, or every other weekend. But when you start doing it daily, and when you're doing it and it affects you physically, mentally, emotionally, that's you're starting to get into addictions at that point. And when you start getting into addictions, that's when the problems start. Because
Mhm.
when you get addicted to something, nothing else really matters. So you start not going to work. You start not taking care of your home life. You not take care of your personal self. You start not to care. So when it becomes addictions, that's when it becomes an issue. We do have a drug problem here, no doubt about it.
Mhm.
We have a drug problem here, and we're not isolated here in Tallahassee. We have drug. We got to recognize this is just not Tallahassee problem. Is it's everywhere, and only thing we can do, of course, is focus on Tallahassee because that's where we're at. But it is an issue that's like I talked about earlier. You got people that are addicted to stuff they don't even know what they're addicted to. And when you're addicted to something and you continue to chase after that addiction, especially using drugs and alcohol, that's going to lead you down a path, of no return. So, recreational use of drugs, marijuana, maybe some issues on the college campuses, maybe. But for the most part, what we're having issues with here at the Tallahassee Police Department is addictions. People that are addicted to these drugs that are going out doing things that really they shouldn't be doing to get them. Now at the same time, when you recreational using it, you still got to go and deal with it. You got to get it from somewhere, right?
Right.
So
Right.
if you're going out there and you're getting involved or going into areas where they're selling drugs, then you're more subject to be a victim of crime as well. So we found that to be a case on a couple of occasions, and some of them were deadly. So it's a problem that we're gonna have to continue to deal with.
Right.
Okay. One last question we got for you.
All right.
Is there any mental health team associated with Tallahassee law enforcement, like specifically? Because I know you said you partner with Appalachia, but do y'all have y'all specific team?
Does it say that one more time?
Of your ex, is there a mental health team associated with Tallahassee law enforcement? I know before you said y'all had partners, so do you have a specific team?
Yeah, we have a unit. We have an actual unit. That's a team unit that I talked about. That is an actual law enforcement officer. He is initially it was supposed to be. It was created on what they call the Cahoots model, which was out of I think it was Washington State. But initially it was supposed to be the police there, and then you're supposed to phase the police out. Well, we get there and we got there and we found out that our involvement was kind of critical. And the officer that we put in, he just grabbed the bull by the horns, and he's just taking it to a level to, like I said, it's receiving national attention. So that is our unit that we have. And I said earlier, we're going to expand that unit come October. We start a new budget cycle. It's going to be 3 versus just only 1 now. And then we have the 3 out there. So we have a wider coverage in the city. And then, of course, in partnership with the Leon County Sheriff's Office and everyone, law enforcement right now is geared. We understand that we have to have a mental health component that's not law enforcement. But at the same time, you bring the experiences of law enforcement there, but you're doing it in, you're bringing it in like a clinician type of mentality or way.
Yeah.
So it's you don't show up in this uniform when you go dealing with them, unless of course you only got so much resources. We got a critical crisis situation, and that unit is tied up on something. Then of course we're gonna send an officer, but our officers are also trained in those types of crisis intervention techniques as far as de-escalating. So all of us, the goal is to have every officer we have CIT certified, which is Crisis Intervention Training Certified, to where they are trained to go out and deal with people in crisis and approach it not in an aggressive manner, but a manner of compassion and the idea of de-escalating those individuals that are in crisis.
Okay. Well, Mr. Holmes, man, I just want to give a special thanks from SG Mental Health and Counseling just for you taking the time out to have this conversation with us, man.
Right.
We really appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all having me, man. Thank y'all very much. I hope I answered your questions. That's the best thing I can hope for.
You did. You enlighten us, and as well as you answer the viewers' questions. So we appreciate what you do for the community, and keep on doing a good job, Deputy Chief Holmes.
Thank you, sir. That's my plan, and let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about it.
Have a good day, man.
All right, take care. All right.
So yeah, there we go, people. That wrap up another episode. Let's talk about it. Hey, stay tuned. We're finishing the Men's Mental Health Month. So next month, man, we just diving deep into everything. Just DM us, follow us on every social media platform, SG Mental Health CO. If that doesn't pop up on YouTube, type counseling at the end instead of just CO.
That's right. Let's talk about it, people.
Let's talk about it, man. Hey, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
More to come.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.